And thank you so much for joining us on the Lunchtime Cafe right here on Camnet TV. Thank you so much for making that decision. My name is Joe Smarter. And of course, this afternoon we have nothing but the best lined up for you, our dear viewers, in current affairs rather. And of course, with so much happening in the country, politically charged, we do have the opposition, other stakeholders, the government of the day as well, different stakeholders and different sections of society have different opinions on what is currently happening in the country, and this has caught the attention of Zambians in the diaspora. And this afternoon we speak to Mrs. Charlotte Nais. She is going to be with us. We're going to have a telephone interview with her all the way from Oslo, Norway, this particular afternoon. Good morning, Mrs. Nais. Good afternoon, Mrs. Nais, rather.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sumatra. How are you? And good afternoon, viewers.
Okay, fantastic. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's always a pleasure to be hosted by you. We always enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. Let's get into it. A lot has happened over the past few weeks, and this has caught your attention as a Zambian in the diaspora. Let's begin with, for instance, the time that former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu went into town, specifically Lumumba Road, and met some residents and marketeers and members or citizens of Lusaka. And you know the circumstances that surrounded that particular walk. But let me get it from you as a Zambian in the diaspora.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we're able to get you.
Thank you very much. It is a little bit difficult to discuss personalities, but I would like to take my take on his visitation into town. I'm a little bit tired because I don't know what comes with his retirement. I know that he isn't under house arrest. I know that he is a free man, being the former head of state. But you see, one thing that we cannot ignore is that anybody who goes into the public eye, anybody who goes into public office, you must give goodbye, kiss goodbye to your private life. So the scope of the position that you hold, the type of job that you hold in society will determine on how much you can be mobbed on the street and what you carry with you after leaving office. It could be celebrities. We don't see celebrities walking anyhow in town because they will be mobbed, right? There will be, kafafa where people will come through, they are happy, some are not happy, things like that. So security becomes a problem. So I would like to believe that the former head of state, everywhere he would go, he's not an ordinary person. So he would definitely, he will come with people around him, but then at what price does that come with? So it's not about preventing him not getting into town, but maybe a sneak would do, and then just say, I was in town, right? We have heard in the past when he actually had been to Pick and Pay and then said that I've just been to Pick and Pay. People not knowing him, that he was there. Recently, we saw Michelle Obama was traveling somewhere in the US, and she quickly went into one of the supermarkets, Target, where she went to find her book, and she had to sign about 10 copies of those books. And, she was very disguised. She had to wear a cape. Why? It's security conscious. And had people known that it was her, it was going to be another mob. So I would like to believe that it is the same thing. So Nothing wrong for him to be in town. However, the position that he carried will always live with him, and it will always attract bad or good attention.
Okay. Just from that score, let me find out from you. Do you feel sometimes this is being done to get political or to gain political mileage? How would you interpret that if one is armed with that particular information that once they leave public office, they do not have a private life? Do you think sometimes it's done because of maybe, just maybe, trying to get political mileage?
It will be difficult for me to speak on his behalf what his intentions are. You see, like I referred to Michelle Obama, she is not running for office, or she has not been a politician. Her husband was the politician. And she went there for goodwill. You know, she was just being kind by signing those books. I can only speculate. I do not know what the former president's intention were. However, it's in the public eye, in the public domain, that he is back in the politics. So whether he did that, and I think it would be a wrong way to go if he was doing that for political mileage. I would like him, if that was the case, why not just announce that he would like to meet with the people, right? So the trip to town, we don't know. I can only speculate. I don't know whether he went there to just say hello to the people, or it was just a by-the-way thing. But like I have said, he will always attract people, no matter what. We see Your Maps. Your Maps is not an ordinary person. The president is not an ordinary person. They will always, even some of the ministers, they are not ordinary people who can easily just walk into to a supermarket and do some shopping. They'll always, attract people wanting to say hello to them. So if he was doing that for political gains, I don't think it's the best way to do it, because, it could go both ways, negative and positive.
Okay, fantastic. Now, moving on, let's find out. There have been some arrests that have been made, and most of the people that have been arrested and they're in police custody are politically exposed individuals, and some section of society believes that this is political witch hunt. This is being done to stifle the voices of the opposition and these individuals. However, these individuals that are in police custody, I can name them. We have Lumezi Independent Member of Parliament, Munia Zulu, who uttered remarks that are regarded as hate speech here in Zambia, number one. Number two, we have Mfuwe, Member of Parliament, Maureen Mabonga, who also uttered remarks that are regarded as hate speech here in Zambia. She is in police custody. We also have civil rights activist, Mr. Brebna Changala, and also opposition FDD leader, Mrs. Edith Nawakwi. Also, she is in police custody. Now, there are people or citizens that believe that this is political witch hunt because these individuals are somehow mingling with the opposition political parties, particularly the PF. But let me get it from you. Should politicians be exempted from being punished or from being taken into police custody because they are politicians, even when they err, even when they break the law? Let me get it from you, Mrs. Nice.
Sister, thank you very much for that lovely question. Excuse me. Should they be left alone? Should they be persecuted? The police have a guideline on knowing what is wrong and what is right. And when it comes to what is wrong and what is right, it doesn't matter who has committed the crime. A crime is a crime regardless.
Okay.
The only person I think who can avoid at the moment is the president, because he enjoys that immunity.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it also goes to a certain degree as in what you cannot be persecuted for. So a crime is a crime. There's nowhere I have learned to say maybe children cannot be jailed at a certain age, but they will still be answerable, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the hate speech, I think some time back we had talked about this. You know, when Honorable Kambwili was sentenced to prison because of the hate speech. I think what Zambia requires to do now, than maybe yesterday actually, is to define what do we mean by hate speech.
Okay.
That is what we need to define what hate speech is. The cue of hate speech comes from leaders who encourage it by turning a blind eye when the hate speech emanates from favored groups. We cannot say we are fighting hate speech when other people are being left out. You know, Zambia is, we are going to risk ourselves if we are going to choose who to arrest. If a politician, for that matter, you know, there are times when people have been penalized to set an example. And I think it's very important that the leaders themselves have been careless, and therefore they have been, if indeed they said something that was a crime. The leaders command so much. They have a platform. They are elected leaders. They represent, who do they represent? They represent the community, the people. They speak on behalf of the people. Imagine being misled by somebody you look up to. That is danger. So they are, of all people, they are the ones that should lead by example. They should speak well, represent, set the tone. It's very important. And let us avoid being emotional. I think it's very important that we say that leaders must avoid being emotional when they are dealing with situations. Whatever the trigger, when you are a leader, there's a certain way of dialoguing. There's a certain way of expressing yourself. We know that there has been, a number of hate speeches coming from sectors around the country. However, as leaders, like you have rightly put so, whether it's right or wrong, but as leaders, we must mind how we speak and who is listening, because we command that power and the power to lead. And when we are leading, it's important that we lead by example.
Okay. Now, in the morning during our breakfast show, we did pose a question, Mrs. Nais, that should citizens petition the government of the Republic of Zambia to make tribalism an unbailable offense, or should we had overwhelming responses from our viewers out there via our text messages, via our Facebook page. But let me find out from you, should hate speech be, or issues that have to do with ethnicity be made a non-bailable offense to those that err and are found wanting or on the wrong side of the law?
I think it's very important that we define exactly what we mean. So the ethnic groupings, we are Zambia is divided in provinces. We are identified as coming from which province, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very sad that we're going to talk about ethnic groupings. Mm-hmm. Personally, my father is from Northwestern, my mother is from Eastern Province. Mm-hmm. I have a cousin, I have a sister and aunt who are Lozis, Bembas, Tongas, my brother married to Bembas, and very different. So it's actually very sad that we can sit and be discussing ethnic groupings. And indeed, yes, something must be done about it. I think it's important. Personally, I work in government, and the job that I do, I have so much influence looking at countrywide that I could choose who I would like to serve. I'm not even, Mr. Smarter, I'm not even allowed to speak about politics and later on who I serve. So I think the first guidelines maybe the government should consider, the parliament, is to penalize every civil servant that is talking about ethnic groupings in public places, in public workplaces.
Mrs. Nais, just
very,
there,
very important.
just there, Mrs. Nais. We've
Yes.
had reports, and these are ongoing reports, that in some parts of Zambia, if you do not speak the local language, you won't be attended to, and there are nurses, teachers that have been sent in those places. And if a child, a patient, cannot express themselves in a language that they feel they understand, then that patient won't be treated. That child won't be attended to. We know these things are happening, and we do have such cases. What really should be done? Because this is something that we avoid to talk about, but these things are happening, and I think it's getting out of hand. This is why politicians now are free to issue careless statements bordering on ethnicity, tribe, and hate speech altogether. Mrs. Nais.
It is very sad, very regrettable, honestly, that one would be denied to access healthcare based on your looks. You see, when we talk about ethnicity, it's not very far-fetched for me, because I live in a world where I'm a minority, and it actually is very, very sad to experience being discriminated based on your looks. I have a child who is 9 years old, and it's very tough for me to even talk to her about her looks, but it's been, especially now that she's 9, she's ready to take in so much that I know that she will live to remember. And that in her day-to-day at school with friends, this is something that I'm empowering her to remind her that it's not her fault that she's black or she's got a black mother. One time she came to tell us that one of her classmates was telling her that she's from Africa. And she was sad about it. And my husband was in the kitchen, and suddenly he came through, and I was telling her that, it's not wrong for you to be from Africa. What she expected of us was us reacting, getting angry. And my husband came through and said, you see, I'm very proud of the woman that I've married. She's black, but at no point have I given power to anybody to tell me that she's less of a woman because she's a black woman. I am proud of the woman that I've married, who is your mother. And you should be proud that you have a mother that is African, and you are African as well. You are half Norwegian, half Zambian. That, to her, you could see her face brightening. Just her dad using those examples was very important and very impactful. You see, for her, associating herself, she wasn't sad because being called African. It's what comes with Africans in these areas. Okay. They look down on Africans. And that is, Mr. Smart, that is exactly what you are saying to me. There is no tribe, there is no ethnic grouping in Zambia that is less or that is more superior than the others. It's important that Zambians need to realize that we are hurting other people who don't have a voice, the people who don't come close to the corridors of power. It's important that our leaders get up now and look at how serious this is before 2026. We cannot start talking about a health personnel refusing to treat somebody based on where they come from, how they look. When we have guidelines that are saying you are wanted if you are found discriminating others, people will stop. It's important that this is on paper. We cannot continue massaging it like it's just something where we have to talk about it. You and I, we can sit down and dine, have lunch now. There will be no time you'll be asking me whether I'm coming from Zambezi or whether you're coming. We will just be having lunch. The politicians have made this ethnic grouping topic a hot thing. We don't see this thing happening in schools. We don't see this thing. It's recently that things have been happening like this. We condemned it under the previous government. We must condemn it even today. And there should be no, selective justice. Whoever commits it, it should be in black and white. It is a crime, it is a crime. We are all Zambians and we are all special regardless whether I'm from Northwestern Province, whether I'm from Luapula, we are the same. And our leaders must do this in the strongest terms. We can't say this today and then say it different another day. We are one people. We are setting us bad. We cannot continue this way. Ethnic topics should not even come close to us. We are too many and too different. We have seen it in other countries. Why are we risking this, Zambia? Why? What will it take? We celebrated Africa Freedom Day. What were we celebrating? We talk about Kaunda. Why are we talking about Kaunda? Must we experience it for us to see that this is a burning topic? Why?
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
What will it take?
Mrs. Nais, do you think it's the politicians that push this agenda? Because among citizens, yes, you might have isolated cases of this talk, but do you think it's the politicians themselves that are in the forefront of pushing this narrative?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I will ask you, Mr. Simata, you're a journalist. Have you heard in any circles, whether school or workplaces, where did it come from? It started in workplaces. And this started with politically charged employees. That is where it started from. It did not start from school. It did not even start from those people working Muma market. Those are the people who were doing all these things. Muma church, neither that church at Bali, Wabantu Bali Balos. Bali Balopola, Bali Batanga because Bali Batonga. Bali Batanga because Bali Bamambu. It's the politicians that are doing this. As friends, there's no friend we have heard Bali Batanga waiting because Bali Babem. Bali Kane Chupo, Bali Kane Salamu because we've never heard of such things. So it's the politicians that are drawing this thing, they are drumming it up. It's very, very sad, very regrettable. And they should, our organization, Muzenga Lives Foundation, is advocating for a mindset change. One of the things that we are looking at is things like this. What we are doing with communities is to unlock minds, to tell people to see beyond what they see on the face. You see Mr. Simata, but what else are you able to see? You hear him talking, but what else are you able to see? Can you ask questions? That is what we are doing. And we are hoping that many people will be unlocked. The only time Zambia is going to make so much progress is when a lot of people make up their minds. They realize that it only takes them and nobody else.
Okay.
Where you are there, Mr. Simata, nobody can tell you to say, You're going to ask, As long as we are not empowered people, we have not empowered ourselves, we will be coerced in doing very silly things that are very dangerous in the long run.
Okay. So is it justifiable that these politically exposed individuals have been arrested and they're in police custody? Do you feel it is fully justified that doing so would deter, would be offenders that feel excited when they see the cameras and begin to issue divisive remarks that border on ethnicity? Mrs. Nines.
No. And I will say why. You see, we have seen a lot of reactions. There is selective justice. As long as we continue with selective justice, the arrests are not going to solve anything. We have seen until now, people are saying, why have they left out those persons who said ABCD? As long as we are able to see other leaders that have been found wanted and have not been reprimanded, we are setting another problem for ourselves. So a wrong is wrong, and the police gets in there and they say, Charlotte, you said ABCD, Mr. Smata, you said ABCD, this is the crime, and therefore, when they use the collective language for the same punishment, then we are making progress. So the way the politicians that have been arrested that are in remand today, and we see others as well from other camps that have said the same, then we are setting a very, very sober tone across the line. No political parties will be careless in issuing such statements. But as long as we choose who to reprimand, who to punish, we are creating more trouble. We have heard that the people that have been arrested today, some are saying they reacted. What were they reacting to? They reacted because somebody said something or somebody did something. So is that what we're going to go on talking like that? So and then it will be a never-ending story. So some tone has to be set. This is the standard. Everybody who says the same, Kaufela, it is a crime, and therefore you go behind bars.
Okay.
Then we are making progress.
Okay, fantastic. Aware from matters that have to do with ethnicity and hate speech, let's come to matters of the economy, and we are talking about the cost of living. Now, today happens to be the 30th, and obviously tomorrow, the 31st, Friday, we expect the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, to announce fuel pump prices, whether they are going to adjust them upwards or downwards. We do not know. We await for tomorrow. But let me get it from you. What has been the message that has been sent to you in the diaspora, and what has been your observation from the diaspora regarding the cost of living in your home country, Zambia? Mrs. Nice.
Of course, things have become very, very expensive. Things have become very, very expensive back home. We read, we communicate with family. We see how the dollar is doing. Businesses are not doing very well. You're talking about fuel maybe going up, but then there's also electricity. And in Zambia, majority people are into small-scale businesses in the informal sector. And that becomes, a problem when we have to look at how are we doing when it comes to the income that is coming in households. It becomes a problem when there are very few people that are bringing in the income. So that also becomes a problem. But then there are measures that maybe the government needs to do when it comes to the fuel on its own. it is a problem. We know that many countries, even Norway, has had fuel going up the last 1 year or two. Electricity as well, and we are selling electricity abroad, and a lot of people have also, petitioning and, protesting why the government keeps on selling electricity when we need it here. They have subsidized it, where some bills we get something from the government. So I think it's a matter of what measures can we put in place. We need to find alternative energies when it comes to power. And then we also need to, Norway is one of the countries that we pay higher taxes. Okay. And at some point, one would understand, what do those taxes do to a country? Mm-hmm. In Norway, there are very few people, if there are, indeed, then there are a handful of people that don't pay taxes, and I don't know how they don't. So those taxes go back to the government, and that is where you find that most of our things are subsidized by the government, or at least we look at it as free, but it's because we pay higher taxes, right? Mm-hmm. So we need the people in Zambia to trust the government, one. We need businesses that are registered. When businesses are registered, those small businesses registered, believe you me, it would go a long, long way when they are registered and they are able to pay taxes for as little as they can. Why do I say so? Mm-hmm. Developed countries, other countries like Norway, during COVID, all these businesses, like people are experiencing at the moment in Zambia, those barber shops, saloons, and all the cookie restaurants and all, they're complaining that they are losing revenue, right? The people making cakes and all these businesses. Had those people, those businesses registered with the government would then be looking at compensations. We saw this happening in this country. All the businesses, the private businesses that were out of business during COVID, they had to, put in a claim in the government with the government immediately, and they were reimbursed. Imagine if Zambia could do that. We see that the load shedding, the electricity, it's not sticking to the timetable. That already is a problem for people, majority people. Mm-hmm. When we can't stick to that, people cannot even plan. Mm-hmm. It becomes very, very difficult. We have seen people who are using phones to do their business, to do their trading. When they can't even charge their phones, not majority people have external, generators and all. That costs a lot of money. So we need to find a way of how to cushion these small businesses. And the first way to go is that Zambia must find a way of having these small businesses pay taxes. But they can only do that when they have regard for the government, trust. Because why? We have seen some people don't believe that when they pay taxes, the tax money is going to good use. Why? Because they have seen how politicians have enriched themselves within a short period of time. So how do we do that? We need to grow that people have got the trust in the government. The government make sure to say, depending on taxes, register your companies. In the long run, they could come back to say, look, our businesses have been down for the last 6 months. Is it possible we can get something out of it? Of course, the government would consider that.
Okay. Let's begin to look at the fuel pump prices. You have touched a bit on that, and obviously tomorrow we expect the Energy Regulation Board to give us a review of the monthly fuel pump prices. Other stakeholders have said the monthly review of fuel pump prices is not sustainable. Can we extend it to 6 months, every after 6 months? And obviously this has been a subject of debate. But the Energy Regulation Board currently has a new board chairperson after Mr. Reynolds Wowa was fired as the board chairperson. What do you expect from the new board chairperson of the ERB, Mrs. Nice?
You know, subsidies have worked, but only for a short period of time. But I think it's also important that we are transparent on what is happening behind what we, the people, cannot see.
Okay.
You know, government is subsidizing, but then they can only subsidize because they are getting some money somewhere.
Okay.
Our country is not, we don't produce so much. We are consumers. And that money that the government has to, that cushion, when they have to lower the price, it has to come from somewhere. But where is that somewhere that is coming? So we really have to stay on course, be transparent in our decisions and in what we say. We have heard arguments where they're saying it's global. We heard it in the Patriotic Front, and then we see what is happening currently. And I can confirm that what is happening in Zambia is not different from what is happening in Norway. Even here, the fuel pump has gone up. The only difference is that it helps when the wage across the board is different. Zambians have got very low wages, and therefore, when the salaries are not going up, you can feel that the economy is really biting because, you know, the commodities have gone up. Your salary is still the same. Your salary is still the same. So maybe we can suggest, how doesn't the government, maybe the government should consider, you know, subsidizing maybe on public transport.
Okay.
Maybe let them just say, I'm a buses. I don't know how many flash. It's been a while that I use the public transport. But if they could maybe, you know, the taxi, they have this association, and would like to see the buses also, maybe they should have an association.
But Mrs.
Maybe
Nice,
they should caution.
Mrs. Nice, just on that one, the Minister of Finance, the custodian of our money, is on record to have said that in no uncertain terms is Zambia going to revert back to subsidies. Subsidies under this administration are not a subject of discussion, and this country won't revert back to subsidies. The Minister of Finance is on record to have said that. How then do we move forward?
You know, sometimes it's good, and we have to look at situations as they happen.
Okay.
As long as we are being informed, I hope that maybe the minister can reconsider the situation, because as things stand, you see, we are seeing a lot of reactions from the people. People, you know, we do have tempers. Sometimes I react when I'm broke, right? I don't know about you, Mr. Samantha, but when I'm broke and I just got paid and everything just goes, you know, the mood just changes in the home, right?
Yes.
And I would like to believe it's the same thing that is happening with the people back home as well. When their salaries are not changing and the government needs to respond in a way to soothe, you know, the people. And the best way maybe it could, maybe they should slash down the prices for, you know, bus fares. Maybe they should come in and subsidize just a little bit. I think, you know, some incentives do work to just see, to show that we hear things are bad. Just like a parent in a home, you can't completely explain to the children to say this is the situation, but you can once in a while, at some point you have to stop and say, you know, something like that. Things are really bad. They have to find a way to cushion for people to see that the government is trying to reason as an economist. I know he's talking as an economist, and I know that he's speaking from, you know, there's a lot that is at stake for Zambia. You know, this debt restructure that we saw, just some good news coming up now. So there's something that he's trying to protect and trying to cushion. But what about the ordinary Zambians? The ones that are trading every day, but I am down. But I am quiet. They want to sell something and they are not able. How are we taking care of those people? The people we cannot completely explain to understand what is cooking behind. So there must, believe you me, imagine if you never wish bare change omutengo mailo. And suddenly but change mailo, but sure omutengo bus. Don't you think people would be happy? People would respond positively because then they would know there's something happening here, but we hear you. It's still the same, their salaries are still the same. But they have to pay, they have to leave. They have no choice. On top of it, so at some point we need to meet the consumers. Yes, they do not, the Ministry of Health, Finance, sorry, it does not consider that for going back to subsidies. But at some point, it has to happen. They must do something for the consumers, for the people. To respond, just show them. Abama transport, it's either ma flash and kalejambe ya mahala, mundu akwele basi ya mahala. For some time, it would really, really help, believe you me. Or at least mtengo usakwele wa mabasi.
Okay.
Yeah? But you know, they have started doing this with the food. We have seen that they have started doing, giving food coupons and hampers and all this. That is good. That is positive. That is positive. That is responding to see, yes, we see that there's a crisis here, but we are here for you. We are here. You might not fully understand what we are doing behind closed doors, but we understand the position. It's not too much, but it is something.
Okay. Let's begin to address the issues of climate change. The president is on record to have said that climate change is here with us. It is here to stay. And yesterday he was talking about looking at other alternative sources of energy such as solar and the like. And I want to find out, you being in the diaspora, we understand you are doing something right here in Zambia to combat the effects of climate change. Kindly bring us up to speed, Mrs. Nice.
We definitely need to find, we have to contribute in one way or another. In the best way we can, we need to respond. I was talking with my team last week on how best can we work with the people in the rural areas that solely depend on charcoal. And alternative energy, definitely, solar, and it was very good to hear that government has actually, reduced, that, people transporting or importing those solar, they wouldn't be paying so much on it, or at least, it shouldn't be costing too much. That is supporting, responding, just like I've been talking about the cost of living. When we talk about alternative energy, then we are responding to those that are cutting down the trees. We cannot stop people, for example, to cut down the trees and explain to them about the effects of climate change by cutting down the trees, that it's climate change. We also need to show that this is the alternative. When we say something that is completely big, that requires breaking it down to a layman's language for them to understand and respond, we must come with alternative. So solar, they have to be put. We need to use a little bit of that CDF money has to go into supporting clean energy.
Okay.
It has CDF money, some of it must go to that. That is the only way we can support, and we need to break down what we mean by the clean energy, and we need to educate the end users. Using a gas, how important and how effective is it, and how is it going in the long run? Is it going to help us when we talk about climate change? So they need of advocacy is there, and then for the people to fully understand, such that okay, this is what we mean, and the gogo can actually use, because it's not just about introducing, but are they able to use it as well?
Okay.
So we need to break it down in the sense that everybody, we don't put people's lives in danger. There was a time I was talking at one of our student houses, and when we wanted to put up a gas cooker, and the thing was, not everybody is able to operate a gas cooker. And these are, these are students who are in college. So imagine if we are going to take a gas cooker again to the people who have never used something that's completely new. It's important that the information is broken down completely. So we need to advocate for clean energies, alternative energy, but then educate the people as well so they can positively respond to that. And in the long run, then there's also another thing of planting of trees. Muzenga Life Foundation has been planting of trees around the country. So we should also encourage that in schools. The forestry, by the way, do you know that they give free trees? So we can all of us do something and cut down, avoid cutting down the trees. And one important thing before we finish on that one, Mr. Samata, I was thinking, why don't the Ministry of Lands consider it in their policy before they issue those title deeds for the people who are acquiring land, the traditional leaders and the Ministry of Lands? They must prevent the people acquiring land from cutting down trees on their land. That is very important.
Okay.
They can cut down, but they should remember that it's important. So when we flash that in everybody's face, I think we will be making progress.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, as we begin to wind up, Mrs. Nais, let me find out from you, when such negative sentiments are thrown around carelessly within the country, what impact or what image is this painting of Zambia in the diaspora or globally? Let me get it from you. You are in the diaspora. Obviously, you hear people talking about Zambia. You hear your colleagues talking about Zambia and what is currently happening, and the questionable conduct of some of these individuals we have entrusted to get into the corridors of influence, of power, and some of the sentiments that they issue. What sort of image are they portraying outside Zambia? You are in the diaspora. Kindly bring us up to speed as we begin to wind up.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, I don't think people, just like we do, like a Zambian, wherever we are, how do we look at other countries? Mostly it's the civil unrest. So they won't be looking at, it will be very late that they would want to understand what is causing the, all the fighting. Mostly it's the country that is not at peace. That is what people see. When we look at what is happening in Ukraine, we look at what is happening in Palestine and Israel, you see, we don't go there to go and dig what exactly happened. They just look at, things are not working out. And for us, we are heading to, economic growth. Stability, peace are vital for us. So today we can abuse one another, but it's very important. We must remember that by the end of the day, we are Zambians. So they will not even look, the outsiders will not even look at me as an individual. Charlotte started this whole thing. They will look at what has been triggered and the reaction that comes out. That is what they look at. They will, the reporters will say, Zambia is doing ABCD. Zambia is doing ABCD. Everything good that is what they talk about. Everything bad produced by Zambia, that is what catches the media. So they will not read about ethnic groupings, these provinces. No. They will look at us. So we owe it to ourselves by the end of it all. For people to admire us, we must unite and identify one another as one. There is no single ethnic group that is special than the other or that is more important. Just like in a football pitch, Ronaldo will never score those, or the fashion Sakana will never score those goals without, Patson Daka and the rest. We are united, we are a body, and that body, we can't take away the head and expect the body to function. We can't take away the arm. Yes, we can function, but, the damage will still be seen. That is what we need to take care of. Well, let's take care of each other. We are too connected to divide. So the outsiders are only looking at us when we become dysfunctional, unfortunately. And that is not a very good one. So Zambians, we owe it to ourselves. We must remember every time who do we represent and how many people are looking up to us. And again, how do we respond? It's very important. When we allow emotions to, overrule us, then we have lost. It's always allow, we can respond, we can give feedback, but how do you give feedback? So it's very important that we treat each other fair, but when it comes to this hate speech, I think it's important that it's put in black and white, and that everybody knows it's been defined. If you go against this thing, you're on your own behind bars.
Okay. May I take those as your last words, Mrs. Nais?
Yes, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for hosting us. It's always lovely to be hosted, to talk to you. Thank you very much. And let love lead Zambia. We owe it to ourselves. We love it, and
Okay, thank you so much for speaking to us. Mrs. Charlotte Nais there, thank you so much. Okay, so there you have it, viewers. That was Mrs. Charlotte Nais speaking to us all the way from Norway, Oslo. She has been prompted to talk to us because of the many happenings in the country, particularly from most politically exposed individuals in the country. And she reached out to us and said she wanted to add a word on what is currently obtaining in Zambia right now from the perspective of somebody who is in the diaspora. Let me thank you most sincerely, the viewers out there, the major stakeholders in this particular program. We do appreciate you. Our director, Mr. Elijah Chifita, thank you so much, and the entire production team. I have been your host, Joe Smata is my name. We'll see you next time, same place. Good afternoon, and God bless Zambia.